Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Watch the rest of this video as we take out some of the slop out of my 3S Arrmas, as well as unbox the new Arrma I just picked up today. So stay tuned. Alright, here we go. Hey YouTube, so welcome back. So we're going to start off this video with me on working on some things on my Arrma Vorteks. And I also picked up a new Arrma today. It's the Arrma Typhon 3S. I went to my local hobby shop and I wanted to pick up some parts. So as you can see here, I did pick up some parts. And while I was at the store, I was looking at the wall and I seen this sitting on the wall. You know, it's been sitting there for a long time. And I kind of like the 3S versions of the Arrmas. It's easy for me to carry. It's small enough. The LiPo is simple. It's just a 3S LiPo. And I always wanted to get a Typhon, so I picked one up. So we're doing an unboxing of this today. But today,
you are my pill, I swallow it. Take me away to Neverland, where colors fade my disbelief and make me forget my memories. Rent a car you can't afford, put on a song that we both know. Let your hair out in the wind, put the pedal to the floor, flame your light and take a smoke. Put your broken rip-off wafers on. Doesn't matter if the sun goes down, we'll still be up, still be up. Don't care about the place we found, we'll still be up, still be up. We're in this together, we both fall down. Doesn't matter if the sun goes up, cause we will still be high when the lights out. The time is still, stay in the daydream, chase the thrill, make up the way as we go, live for the moment, lose control. Rent a car you can't afford, put on a song that we both know. Let your hair out in the wind, put the pedal to the floor, flame your light and take a smoke. Put your broken rip-off wafers on. Doesn't matter if the sun goes down, we'll still be up, still be up. Don't care about the place we found, we'll still be up, still be up. We're in this together, we both.
okay, so here we are. We're back at the house and wanted to show you the shim kit that I got from MadLabs. So kind of disappointed a little bit on doing the install for this. It is time consuming, so it looks simple in theory because it is basically just washers and O-rings and shims, and I'll show you like some of the pieces. So if you look in this box here, we got some O-rings, some plastic washers. Let me move this plastic bag and I'll show you. As you can see there's some plastic washers in here, as well as some metal shims in there. Okay guys, and basically you would install it like how it shows in their documentation on how to install these things. So basically what we're trying to do and eliminate is any movement in the A-arms, like side to side, just to get rid of that play. So you have front and rear, as well as the tie rod or these composite links. So the purpose of putting shims for the composite links is if you're using the composite pivot balls, and I think that's what this was actually meant for. It takes away some of that play of the twisting of the link, just like that, if you don't mind my finger. Okay guys, so it takes away that side to side movement of the link like that. But as you know, on my Arrma Vorteks, I actually have hot racing pivot balls on mine with the composite links of the 3S Typhon. And they're pretty much already tight in the chassis, but I still have this side to side play. Now I'm not sure whether or not getting rid of that rotational slop will benefit in any way. But I did notice in trying to install these rubber washers and plastic washers in there that I found it almost difficult to impossible to install, because once I actually got these plastic shims and rubber O-rings over the hot racing pivot balls, it was very difficult for it to stay in place as you try to put it back into your chassis of the Arrma Vorteks, because I actually needed like pliers to kind of like separate the ears like that while I push in the composite link back with all of these shims. So it was so difficult that these things kept falling out. Wasn't sure 100% whether or not what kind of benefit am I going to get from this. So I actually gave up on that. And what I did, and I'm going to show you in this video, is basically just installing the shims and washers, metal washers for the A-arms. Now that I was able to do. Once I learned how to do one of the arms, I found it very easy to do for the rest of the vehicle, for the other 3 arms, and it did take away that slop like side to side for the A-arms where it moves side to side. You do want the A-arms to move up and down, right? So when your suspension or your car is jumping, of course, you want it to move freely up and down, but you don't want any of this side to side movement. It just, you just want to tighten up the suspension. So that these washers and shims actually do that. So it does do a good job for that. But what we're going to do is take out this center screw here, and then again replace it with these small little O-rings that we have here. So again, we're trying to take out as much slop from the wheel as we can. This side isn't as bad as the other side. Like this side has a lot of slop, but once I put in the that rubber bushing, it seemed to have helped a lot. So this side is pretty better too. So you can see how much slop this has on this wheel, like that. So let me do this side first. And like I was mentioning earlier, I really do like these MIP tools. It's the first time I ever had any MIP tools at all. And like I mentioned, I do have these here. You see those 4? These are actually newer, N-E-W-E-R drivers that I got off of Amazon. It was a pretty good price. It was 4 for $14 or $15. This one MIP tool costs $20 from my local hobby shop, and I think they're selling them for like $19 on Amazon or $18. So it was just worth it to get it at the local hobby shops. Okay, so here we are. This is the screw. Sorry about my finger. I kind of like messed it up fixing my truck, but anyway, here's the screw. And what we're gonna do is just put this little rubber O-ring right on it, and we're gonna put it back. And then, like I mentioned before, I'm not going to use blue Loctite because even though I run the risk of this screw backing out, I don't like having to take that extra step of using a soldering gun to loosen the blue Loctite or to soften it up to get that out. So I hate having to strip the head, and why I went with this MI2 brand or this MIP brand for the tool, because taking this screw out, or the screw for the hub, I always seem to have stripped it with this. So I think that's how I ruined the head on this driver, is because of trying to take that out. So I'm going to stick with this MIP. I'm not going to use any blue Loctite for that, and I'll just check the screw every once in a while. So let's see if it took out any slop here. It still does move, and like I mentioned before, it seems to be like maybe just the bearing in there. Because if I hold, see how I'm going to hold this down, this axle? If I hold it down, there's less play in it. So I'm kind of believing that maybe the bearing itself needs some washers or shims in order to take out some of that play. But you can see how this front has a lot of play. This one is not as bad anymore. It still has a little bit of decent play, but you know what? Adding this rubber O-ring in there seems to do a little bit of difference, and for 30 cents, it's a good DIY fix. So I'm going to be doing this rear one. Let's do this rear one, and we'll do like a before and after. So this one is the least movement of all 4 that I noticed, but it does still move. So I'm going to put and do this O-ring mod to this too. Hey gang, so we're gonna have a slight change of plans in doing this, and kind of found it difficult trying to put in these washers and shims just for the links here. So I noticed, as you noticed, I do already have the hot racing pivot balls on my Arrma Vorteks. And basically what we were trying to do is take away a lot of this slop here, so it doesn't rotate, and basically the shims would actually go over these pivot balls here, and it will prevent this arm from moving. So I'm not sure how much of a difference that actually makes. These hot racing pivot balls already makes a big difference in terms of not being able to compress compared to the composite pivot balls that normally go in there. So these are much more solid. They'll be much more resistant to flexing. But a lot of people are putting shims, and I just wanted to try it because it would be like not much of an expensive mod to do. But I found it super difficult to put shims in there because according to RC MadLabs, there are several different shims or bushings, or actually they're using like washers, and I'll show you a picture. So basically in the instructions when you read it, he's actually saying just use one of these nylon washers or plastic washers first to try out, and I was able to get it in there. Now the problem is with these hot racing pivot balls, there already are a tight fit to get in there, so adding another washer over the pivot ball and then trying to slide it in, I found very difficult. So I'm gonna hold off on doing that at this time because I was actually working on the Typhon and wanted to do that. So the last time you saw me doing a mod on this was just putting that O-ring here inside of the axle and tightening the screw down, and I got a little bit of the wobble in the wheel. Now there's still a little bit of wobble, and a lot of that has to do with eliminating that with this shim kit. So I think I'm gonna hold off on doing this with the tie rod, and I'm gonna actually do the A-arm. So okay guys, so finally got all the shims and washers in. There seems to be pretty ample enough movement with all the shims and washers in there. I did notice that I didn't use one of the shims, and that's shim B, which is this metal washer, which would normally go here in the last part of the A-arm, so closest to the chassis on the inside, because these A-arms seems to be pretty tight already without it. So I noticed that if I had to try and force it in there, I think I would start to restrict movement. But I did get it in there. It wasn't easy. It does take the use of pliers to get the shims and the spacers in there, and then once I got it into place, I just moved the arm up and down, as you can see from the video, and I just hammered in the pin. So if you look at the picture, I did go in reverse order because the way that this A-arm is, this is from looking at it at the top. And since I'm looking at it at the bottom, I just went in reverse order like this. So basically we have B, A, B and an A, and then another B, but again I didn't use a B here. Okay, so I have a metal washer, two plastic, a metal, and then a plastic washer, and then no metal washer here. And just by looking at it, yes, it does take up a lot of that slot. There's just very minimal movement, but I think you will need a little bit of movement in order for the A-arm to reticulate or articulate in there. Big word from me. So I was able to get it in there and seems to be okay. So I'm just gonna put on the shock back on, because I did have to unscrew this just to make it easier for me to get the arm free enough so I can move it. I'm gonna start it off with this. I'm gonna drive it home with this, and then just hand tighten it. Okay, so I'm just going to do that over here. So I'm going to do the same process for the front A-arm. So now that we got experience, or at least we got some technique or learning how to do it, for me at least. Hopefully it'll be a little bit easier, but we'll see. So that's it, guys. That's it for this video. So today we installed the RC MadLabz shim kit just for the A-arms. It does seem to have tightened up everything for the A-arm. There's hardly any movement now in the A-arms. And again, the whole purpose of this was, I just wanted to find something else to do with my Arrma Vorteks. And since I've been pretty much working on getting the steering to track straight and everything, I figured I'd try this out since it's all in a package. So I got this off of eBay. Again, you can get it for $26, or you can watch YouTube videos and possibly just buy your own shims. The only problem is you will need to piece together your own shims and get the correct size. There are 2 videos on doing that for the A-arms as well as the links, and then there's also the rubber O-ring for the axle nut. The axle nut O-ring is pretty simple. I found that in my local hobby shop, my local hardware store, and I just basically picked up the smallest O-ring that they had. Not sure what the size was on that, but it actually fit and does work. There's a YouTuber that's actually using like a 3mm washer, and you can do that if you want to use that, but I didn't want to use that because it'll be metal on metal, and I didn't want to scrape up or damage anything inside the screw or the axle. But the O-ring, yeah, that worked really well. So as you can see, there's hardly any wheel wobble at all. Now the front still has a little bit, but I did pose the question in this video whether or not there are some bearings that I could actually put for the wheel bearings to shim that up and take up all of this space. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for watching this video. I know it was kind of all over the place, but in buying the kit, I just had to find out which was the best for me to do, and trying to shim these links here was very difficult, especially with the hot racing pivot balls in there, because there just wasn't really any space to get the shims and the washers in there without having trouble putting it in, because the hot racing pivot balls are pretty tight already. So next video we'll do the Typhon. We'll work on this. Basically, I think I might do the A-arm shims again. Not sure. Definitely already did the O-ring spacer for this, but I know for sure we want to take this out for blast and some bash sessions. So watch for the next video on that.